Good morning, children. We've already completed the summary of lesson 2, Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. We've completed the summary and we have read till page number 21. Now we had a revision of what we had done earlier. So now first of all, what is apartheid? Apartheid is a political system that separates people according to the race. Second question which we did was important was 10th May. What is the importance of 10th May in the life of people of Africa? Why this date was important? 10th May was important because on this day the South Africa's first democratic non-racial government was to be installed. Second question which we did was ceremonies. Now where the ceremonies took place? The ceremonies took place in amphitheater in Pretoria. Next question which is important here, what all did he speak in his speech? So in his speech, what did Nelson Mandela said? He said that he pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote himself to the well-being of the republic and its people. He further said that he is going to pledge he would liberate all his people from the continuing bondage of first bondage of poverty, second deprivation, third suffering, fourth gender, and fifth any other kind of discrimination. This was explained to you earlier. Now further he talks about the ceremony, what happened in the ceremonies, what was the people's attitude, the military loyalties and how the military loyalties were, and how did these people, all the dignitaries, all the generals, all the police force, how did they behave towards him. Earlier he and Nelson Mandela and his type of people, they were considered as outlaws, and now they were there saluting him and saluting the new formed government, and they were showing all the loyalties towards them. Next question was importance of two national anthem played that day. On that day, two national anthem was played. One was sung by the black and other was sung by the white. Now, what did it symbolize? It symbolizes the unity. Now they have come together after a long time. Now, the other thing which important thing we spoke about here, tribute to all those political leaders who had sacrificed their life, all the African patriots who had sacrificed their life for this freedom which they have got. Now, he says that too much of oppression, they were oppressed so much, the blacks were oppressed so much, and what was a positive thing? The positive thing means so many political leaders came forward in order to sacrifice their life for the people. Now, next question which was important, which we did earlier, was what is the true definition of courage? Courage does not mean absence of fear, that the fear is not there, but triumph over it, but victory over it. That man who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Next topic which we did was here, that why we need to teach love to the people. Now he says that we need to teach love to the people. Why? Because this hatred is it is an acquired trait. It has been taught to them, and if we can teach them how to hate, this is an acquired quality. So naturally, love, which is a very natural thing, can be taught easily to them. Now he also talks about the last line in page second last paragraph, page 21, was man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. Goodness in a man can never extinguish. We cannot kill it completely. It is hidden there, but it is hidden for some time, but it cannot be extinguished. Now we have already completed whatever we had covered in the previous class. Now we are going to start with page 21, the last paragraph. Now kindly open page 21, the last paragraph. In life, every man has two obligations. Two obligations mean two duties to perform. That in a lifetime, we have got two duties to perform. First one is obligation to his family, to his parents, and to his wife. And second one was towards his community, his country. Now here it says, in life, every man has twin obligations. Obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife, and children. He has an obligation to his people, his community, and his country. In a civil and humane, please turn the page to page number 22, Human Society, each man is able to fulfill these obligations according to his own inclination and abilities. Now it says that in a lifetime, all of us have got two obligations and we perform it according to our abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of these obligations. Now he said that man of his birth, because he was a black, so he was oppressed. So he said all these such type of people, if they wanted to perform both the duties, it was not possible. It was very difficult for them. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family, and his home was forced to live a life apart, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. Now, what is Nelson Mandela trying to say out of his experience? He says that if a man wanted to do something for his country, so what was the result? He was ripped off, he was torn apart, he was separated from his family, and he was forced to live a life, a twilight in soft light, in dark light, existence of secrecy and rebellion. He had to live a secret life, and he had to live a life of rebellion. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people over my family. So he says that in the beginning his family was more important. But in attempting to serve my people, but when he wanted to help his people, when he wanted freedom for his people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. So he realized that when he wanted to fight for the freedom of his people, he could not perform the duties of a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. Now, here we're talking about how next three paragraph talks about how the meaning of freedom changed in his life with every passing phase. Now, when he was born, what was the meaning of your freedom? When he was a student, what was the meaning of the freedom? When he was a young man, what was the meaning of freedom for him? So, meaning of freedom changed in every lifetime. Now, every part of his phase of life. Now, he says, the second paragraph, page 22. I was not born with a hunger to be free. He says that when I was born, I did not know what is freedom. I was not born, that I was not with the intention that I need freedom. I was born free in every way that I could. So he was free in every possible way. And what freedom meant for him? Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut. He could run freely in the field in mother's hut. Free to swim in the clear stream. He was free to swim in a clear stream. Nobody obstructed him, nobody refused him, and that ran through his village. Free to roast millies under the stars. Now he was free to roast the millies as corn under the stars and ride the broad back of slow moving bulls. He could take a ride on the bull. As long as I obeyed my father and abided means to follow, by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the law of man or God. He says that if till the time he was following, listening, and doing what they wanted, what his father wanted, what the custom wanted, he had no problem. He did not face any problem. Next paragraph. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. Illusion means a false belief. When I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, then I began to hunger for it. So slowly, he started realizing that this was not a true freedom. At first, as a student, so what freedom he wanted as a student? For at first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. So he was very self-centered. His freedom, he only meant freedom for himself. And what type of freedom he wanted? The transitory freedom of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I choose. So freedom meant that he could stay out at night, he could go out at night and read what he wanted. And when the child is small, all these things are curtailed. He's not supposed to do all these things because the parents are very protective. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, now when he was a young man, what did he realize? I earned for the basic honorable freedom of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Now, when he was young, he realized that freedom, according to him, freedom meant that he could achieve his freedom according to his potential, of earning my keep. Whatever I'm earning, I'm able to keep that, and marrying of my wish, and having a family. And he did not want his lawful life should be obstructed, a freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. But then I slowly saw that not only was I free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. So slowly he realized that it is not only he realized that his freedom, his people also not free. I saw that it was not only my freedom that was curtailed. So he realized that not only his curtailed means reduced, not only his freedom was reduced, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. Who looked like I did means all those type of people who started thinking like him, all their freedoms were also curtailed. And that is when the hunger from my freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. Two types of hunger. He is talking about freedom. Freedom for himself and freedom for his people. So the hunger of freedom of his people became more important to him. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self respect that animated my life. Now, his intention, now wholeheartedly, he wanted to do something for his people. And what two things were there he had kept in mind, that he wanted his people to live with dignity and self respect. And then he started working on that. That transformed a frightened man into a bold one, that drove a law abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life loving man to live a life like a monk. Now, when he decided that he has to fight for the right of the people, how life changed for him. Four things happened. Now he was transformed from a frightened man to a bold one. Initially he was very frightened, now he's become bold because he has to fight for the right of all his people. Second thing, a law abiding attorney to become a criminal. Now he was a law abiding man, he was following rules and regulation law, and he was a lawyer. Now he has become a criminal. That a family loving husband into a man without home. A person who was very family oriented, a person who was very family loving man, he had to be a man without home. He had to stay far away from his home. That forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. A person who was full of life, who used to love to enjoy life. Now he is living a life of a monk with no facilities, with nothing, no rights, and he cannot enjoy his life. So these four things happened when he wanted to work or fight for his nation. I am no more virtuous or self sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedom I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. Now, when the moment he realized that his people was not they were not free, so whatever little freedom he was getting, Nelson Mandela was getting, he was not able to enjoy. Why he was not able to enjoy? Because he used to feel guilty that his people cannot enjoy all these things. Freedom is indivisible. Now, this line is very important. Freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all my people were the chains on me. Now he said freedom is indivisible. We cannot divide freedom. Everybody shall get equal freedom. Now Mandela thought that he is not more virtuous than the others. He thought that freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of his family people were chains on all of them. The chains on all of his people were the chains on him. So he said, if in a single person, even a single African, South African, he is having a problem, so it's a problem for him also. The last paragraph, I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as oppressed. Now we are talking about two people. We are talking about oppressed and we are talking about oppressor. Now we have to understand what is the oppressor and oppressed. Now let us take in a very simple language. Oppressor, here oppressor refers to the white people who are causing atrocities to the black, and oppressed here refers to the black people who are suppressed, who are oppressed by the white people. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. Now, if the oppressor, if he is taking someone else's freedom, he is not actually free in his real sense. He is a prisoner of what? He is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. Now he is locked behind the bars of narrow-mindedness and he is locked behind the bars of prejudice. I am not truly free if I am taking someone else's freedom. So he says that if I am taking someone else's freedom, so in true sense, he is not actually free. Just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. And similarly, if my freedom is taken away from me, how can I be free? The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of humanity. So both the oppressed as well as the oppressor, both are robbed of humanity. They don't have the humanity. So here he's talking about why he's talking about oppressed. Now Nelson Mandela rightly believes both the oppressor and the oppressed are robbed of humanity. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and hate. A man can never be free if his freedom is taken away. Hence, here he is trying to say the oppressed and the oppressor both are equally robbed of humanity. With this, we finish the chapter, and hurriedly let us take the question which we have done in this part. Now here he is talking about twin obligation, two obligations, two duties. One was duties towards the family, his parents, his wife and children, and second obligation was towards his country, his community and his people. So here two obligations we are talking about. Second thing which we've spoken about in this class is that how the meaning of freedom changed in his life. So his meaning changed in his life when he was a small boy. He was born. That time he did not know what is freedom. He was not born with a hunger for freedom. And when he became a child, for him freedom was he could run away in the stream. He could swim in the stream. He could run in the field. He could enjoy the corns, and he could take a ride on the bull. As a student, freedom meant that he could stay out at night. As a freedom, he meant that he could live a life of as a student, that he could stay away at night and he could read what he wanted. And when he was a young man, the meaning of freedom meant that he could earn his keep, he could marry whom he wanted, he could have a family, and all his life, freedom should not be obstructed for a lawful life. Second thing which we have done here is what is the oppressed and oppressor. So this I have already explained to you, and how this life changed when he joined the African National Congress. So when he realized that he wanted to fight for his people, right of the people, he joined the ANC, which is called as African National Congress. So with this, we finished the chapter. Children, I hope you've understood the chapter. Now read the chapter all over again, and then we have already discussed all the question answers. So children, I hope you've understood, and thank you and have a nice day.